Happy Sunday again.
Happy Sunday, everybody. It's getting hot.
Yay! Finally, Sister Sophia. Finally. Yay. All right, y'all. Welcome back again to Extraordinary Women, the place where we talk about the things most people are thinking about but are afraid to say out loud. So today's conversation is going to be deep, maybe even uncomfortable, but necessary. And me and Sister Sophia, we really don't care. All right.
So, at this point, certainly don't.
We don't care, Sister Sophia. We don't care. Okay, anyway, for centuries in America and throughout the Western world, there has been a very clear racial hierarchy. All right. Mm-hmm. Power, wealth, political control, policing, and the justice system historically leaned heavily in favor of white people. But lately, some people are asking a controversial question. Are we witnessing a shift in power? In some viral videos, and I've seen them in news stories, white individuals are suddenly experiencing interactions with police, public accountability, and social consequences that historically were felt much more by people of color. So tonight we ask the question, are white people experiencing their own version of social Armageddon? Or are we simply witnessing the beginning of balance? And now when I talk about Armageddon, I want people to be very clear. When I say Armageddon, I'm not talking about the literal end of the world. I'm talking about the collapse of a system that once guaranteed privilege and protection for our white counterparts. Yeah. Because for generations, many white people live with what is called structural advantage, you know, meaning they are presumed innocent before guilty. Okay. They're always treated with respect by authorities. All right. They always have the benefit of the doubt and they are protected by the institutions. But now I see a shift. So what prompted me to talk about this, I saw a little young white girl on Instagram, I think it was, and she was like, I'm being treated like a Black person. And I wanted to crack up.
Oh, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. Right? So that's why we're having this show, because we really need to talk about this. What are your thoughts on this, Sister Sophia?
Yeah, when you brought this topic up, my first thought was, what the hell does that mean? And then I thought about it and I said, wait a minute. The underlying shifts that are going on, I thought, she might have a point here. There could be something to this because of what I know is happening change-wise is around the planet. Now, first, I'm going to preface it by saying these kinds of cultural shifts have happened in the past. I mean, there was a time when people of color, Black people actually, were the power centers in the world back in the days of the Kush kingdom, which predates the Egyptian kingdom. There were the Phoenicians, which were dark-skinned people, and there is also some evidence of dark-skinned people being prevalent in the Americas way back when. We have the Toltecs, which remember those big heads, stone heads that they found in Mexico, clearly African American, or I'll just say an African nation. Plus, there is also some evidence, and they've been hiding this evidence in some caves that they found in the Grand Canyon. For years, they had this area of the Grand Canyon kind of closed off, so you couldn't go there. But supposedly back in the 10s or 20s, something like that, of the 1900s, some guy going down the river found these caves up high, and he went up and looked in there, and they were full of skeletons and artifacts that looked like Egyptian artifacts, but they looked like they were people of color. And
Mhm.
so when he came down and went, he told the Smithsonian people about it anyway. They came in and took a lot of the information, a lot of the artifacts out, but they also closed off those caves, not wanting anybody to know about it. So
Right.
recently, as I've been doing some reading and studying and what have you, they're starting to talk about the fact that this land, the Americas, was once occupied by dark-skinned people, not just the Native American cultures that we know of, but other dark-skinned people
Mhm.
way back in antiquity. So as we're moving through history, again, it's like the people of color, not just Black people, but the Latin people, the Americans, original Americans, the Native American people, that these are people of color, even the brown-skinned people of the Mediterranean, are starting to rise again. There is activity going on with a new group of people that are kind of taking the place of the United Nations,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
was basically a European kind of race of people. You know, the United Nations, all the countries and everything, but they were countries of European nations, which are basically what we call the white people. Okay,
Right.
but there, because of all the political turmoil and all the craziness that's going on in our country and in other countries around the world, there seems to be a shift now where there are the countries of color, that are starting to come together and take their rightful positions as people being the ruling classes.
Yeah,
This
I
not
noticed
necessarily
Africa, for
happen. It
instance.
happens every so many years. Their cultures rise and cultures fall.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know if I told you about this, but years ago, I found evidence that years ago
Mhm.
there was, we've always thought about Europeans being only white people, and we've always thought about Black people in Europe being slaves like they were here in America.
Yeah, there's
Well,
not at all.
no, and I found the proof that I found was my family name, family surname is Hargis, Hargis, which
Mhm.
I had traced back and found out was based in Scottish culture. It's a Scottish name. So
Mhm.
I always made this joke about I ought to go over to Scotland and find the family castle and knock on the door and say, "Guess who? I'm back home," you know.
Hey, I'm home,
And
y'all.
it was always a joke in our family because there are not a lot of Hargises in the United States. And the only place that we did find Hargises, like my father came from Oklahoma. And there was a handful of Hargises in and around Tulsa, Oklahoma,
Mhm.
when I was growing up. And half of them were white and the other half were Black. And there was this well-known minister by the name of Billy Hargis. He was back in the days of, what's that guy, that other big minister? Anyway, he was one of the television evangelists, and he had the name Hargis, but he was white, so clearly not part of our culture, not part of our family. But
Right.
anyway, so I was doing some research, and I don't remember what got me on this, doing this research, but I was kind of looking back into why do we have this name Hargis? Where did it come from? Comes from Scotland. And so
Right.
I also found this site where you can go, and when you do searches of your surname online, it brought up this site where there were family shields.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I thought, that's interesting. Why would this be popping up? So I put my name in, my surname in the search. My family shield popped up. My name, Hargis, was royalty in Scotland. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Until I looked at the picture of the person on the family shield, Black man, Black skin, definitely
Woolly
curly
hair.
black. He was definitely an African looking person. So I'm like, you mean to tell me that this man was royalty in Scotland 600 years ago? They didn't have slaves in England back then. They didn't have them in Scotland, but there was clearly um, Africans of royalty. They were not slaves. They had never been slaves. So as I looked into where these people came from, they say historically they came from Africa. And during the time of migrations from the Mediterranean area, there were a number of Black people that immigrated into the European nations up the river. I can't remember which river it was, but there's a major tributary that goes up through Europe, up into the
Hmm.
Scandinavian cultures. And that's where my ancestors came from. So I am legitimately a Scottish descendant, and my background, my family was Black. They weren't white, they were Black people. And how they got from Europe to America, that's the part that I haven't been able to connect, because I figured it was a white guy that came over to America that maybe was a slave owner or something. And then that's
Hmm.
how my family, I'm not sure that that's how we got the name. Somehow or another, my family name comes from a Black family. But they did come to America at some point, and then the white family went direction and the Black family tree went the other direction. And I'm here. So when I think about that
That's
going
beautiful.
on
That's
six, seven
powerful.
hundred years ago, that means that 600 or 700 years ago, the Black people, at least in those parts of Europe, were very wealthy people. They were like the Moors were black-skinned people, very wealthy people. There's a lot of talk about the original Jewish people that are in Ethiopia, I think it is.
Hmm.
They're Black. They're
Right.
not white Jews. They're Black. And so, and then we've got the Cush people who were the pharaohs and rulers of England, of Egypt, long before the Greeks and the others, the pharaohs dynasty started. So we've got all these people of color who historically had power, position, wealth, and were able to migrate and spread around the world. So now that we're coming like full circle, and we're at this time where with the ascension, the rise and transformation of humanity is happening, it only stands to reason that people of color are going to be the ones rising into power, because the time of the white people, has passed. We've gone full circle. They've had their time of power, and they've, done a lot to build the world, but they've also done a lot to destroy the world.
Destroy
And
the
I'm
world.
talking
Yeah.
about on the level of people,
Yeah.
cultures. So it only stands to reason that if we're moving into a time where humanity is moving into its best, be the best we can be, time of being,
Right.
that the people of color would be the ones that would be moving into power. There's also historically information that says that the people of color, especially the women, because the divine feminine has returned back to the planet, that this time, and the reason why this is coming up now, is because it's going to take the strength of Black women to bring that divine feminine back into her rightful place and power as being an equal to man, not superior, but an equal, because it's the divine feminine that came first. The divine masculine didn't come first. The divine feminine came first.
Even though
And
they claim that,
yeah, and
we
well,
came from
why
Red
wouldn't
and
they
all
say
this
that
other
it was
stuff.
masculine? And
Yeah.
if they were to tell the truth, then they wouldn't have a way to disempower women and keep us under control.
Correct.
Um, but the whole nature of Black women is to survive, to build, and to take care of. Even, I saw something, I can't remember where I saw it here recently, last few days, about, the original Eve, the original
Hmm.
woman from millions of years ago, the first woman that all human people now are descendants of, was a woman out of Africa. And that automatically indicates that she was a woman of color.
Yeah.
And when they talk about the mitochondrial DNA, as they trace it back to the original woman, it goes back to this Eve woman, who was the original mother of all of the humans, basically all the humans on planet Earth.
Yeah.
So as we're moving back into this time where the divine human is rising, it only makes sense that she'd be a woman of color.
Right. Give us a call, y'all. 347-620-6771. 347-620-6771. We would love to hear your comments about today's topic. Are white people experiencing Armageddon? Now, in regards to what you just said about the divine feminine and Black women, there was a author. She's also like an actress, model. Her name is Cola Booth. She was like back in the day. She used to date Mike Tyson. But anyway, she wrote a book called Feminists Need Dick Too. So, and the book was good. At first, I was like, what? Let me read what this is saying, what we talking about, girl? But when I read it, she told a story. And of course, it's like a fable of Eve and how Eve began and what happened and why everything turned over into a patriarchy when everything used to be a matriarchy. And I found it quite interesting, her take on that story. But if for people out there, if you want to read the book, Feminists Need Dick Too, that's a really great book because it gives her analogy of what happened. And she's from Africa. That's another thing. She's from Africa. That story was passed on to her by her aunt, like her great grandmothers and her grandmother's grandmother. It was passed down, throughout centuries, not just a couple of years, throughout centuries. It was passed down to them. So my question to you is this. I heard that white people only had a reign of 6,000 years here on Earth. And then after that, it would be over. I'm not sure if that's true or not. What is your take on that?
I hadn't heard that story, but that does
they only
kind
had 6,000 years. That's it.
That kind of correlates with the timeline of change that is happening. And when you look back historically, that's about how long they've been kind of in the dominant in power. When other cultures started to be conquered and destroyed, and there's so many facets and so many layers to the history, and there's been so many lies and fabrications and destructions of cultures and whatever. It's hard to really find out what the truth is. I don't know if we'll ever have a way to find out what the truth is, but there are some cultures that around, like for one, that have been around for the longest. We think about the Dogons in Africa. We think about the Aborigines in Australia. They've been around for 60, 70,000 years. And they have a history, probably one of the longest unbroken histories of people of color, any people for that matter. And they go back into some things and talk about some history that's very different from what the Europeans have been spreading as the truth. And of course, in order for the Europeans to have taken over and become the dominant culture, they would have to destroy and do away with a lot of the truth and a lot of the stories of history, because it shows that they have not always been the ruling class. I'll put it that way.
Right.
And in order
that is
for them
true.
to be the ruling class, they had to destroy and enslave and get rid of all of the people who knew the truth.
Right.
But we're in this time of enlightenment, a time when all of the darkness, we prayed as a human race, prayed for a time of truth and light, and the enslavers being defeated and people being free again. We prayed for this and asked for this for the longest time. And since we are the creators of our reality, I think we finally got to a point where enough of us have stepped into being educated, to be enlightened, to be at a point where we can reject the old way, step out of fear and out of the suppression and the poverty that we had been relegated to, and finally step into a place of power, of finally take our power back and say, this is enough. We don't want to be dominated. We don't want to be humiliated. We don't want to be controlled, and we don't want to be destroyed the way it has we have in the past, because we've reached a level of sophistication and intelligence to where we know better, and we're not easily conquered by these cruel, murderous conquerors who came from all kinds of places. But when they couldn't talk people into being submissive, they just killed them.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kill them. And so now we're at a point where humanity has risen to a certain level of sophistication and awareness to where that's not possible anymore. We finally got to a point where enough of us have gotten to realize that we have power, that we can fight back, and that we don't want this anymore. And that's what's happening.
And it also
So
looks so barbaric. Like what's going on right now? Like once the
it
Iran war
is
started,
barbaric.
people from all cultures and just races was like, "This is stupid as hell. What are you doing? This is dumb."
It's
Sister
because
Sophia,
it's the way it's always been.
yeah.
And,
Let me know if you can hear this. Hear this. Hear this. Did you hear that?
I didn't hear it all.
Dang. Dang it. Okay. So a reporter was basically asking Trump, about people dying by the hands of police, black people dying at the hands of police. And Trump said, so are white people, so are white people. White people are dying more now at the hands of police than black people, which remains to be untrue. But so anywho, my question to you is this: is white privilege collapsing?
Yes, it has to.
It has to, yeah.
It has to.
And
Um,
I always used to say this is not our fight to like correct. I used to say that white people had to, correct this, but I don't believe that anymore. I really feel that it's just going to happen.
well,
Like
it's part of this, the awakening of humanity, because when more people start choosing a path of peace and saying no more devastation, no more conquering, the divine feminine has returned, and she's saying no.
right,
That's what's changing everything. People want to live in a world where they don't feel that they can be conquered, controlled, lied to, and devastated, and that there are these powers that be who will always be the haves and will always be the have-nots. That's See, part of what's going on too is the earth is changing. The sun is changing. The earth is evolving into a different level of being, and you
yeah,
can call it a different level, a different dimension, because in a way it is, but it's the changes are consciousness. It's not so much physical, it's the way we think, it's who we are as a species. All of this is changing because we have been going through this soul level growth and experiencing for eons, and now we're coming to a point, we here on earth we have done this is about the fourth cycle of
mhm,
humanity trying to get to the point of being sophisticated and enlightened, aware, evolved enough to finally get out of this third dimensional bullshit. And
right,
that's really part of that's what's driving all of these changes. It's what's bringing women back into power. When See, wars and devastation and hatred and anger and lack and limitation and all of this stuff is part of the third dimensional construct,
right,
meaning it's that level where everything got out of control because of the way people were able, let's put it this way, the powers that be found a foothold and a way to be cruel enough to control, to dominate, to destroy. And when they got this taste of blood, if you will, and they realized if we kill enough people and take their wealth and what have you, we can enslave them and we can turn them into beings that we can control and make work for us, and we can be better and we can have all the wealth and the power and blah blah blah. And that system, as cultures around the world started to adopt that same system, and they kill and take, kill the leaders, enslave the people, take the wealth and the power. When that started to be the way it was, and men are the ones that really kind of perpetrated that, when they got to be the way civilization functioned, we kind of got lost,
yeah,
and not without going into a whole lot of spiritual explanations about what's behind it. Let's just say we finally came to a point where we've come full circle to where creator is saying, all right, it's time to shit or get off the pot. In other words, either do it this time and come into being what we were created to be,
or
co-creators
yeah,
with
or
God,
just
you
perish.
know, we were created with the image of being little co-creators with God beings, because we are God sparks, and we were supposed to go out into the universe and create wonderful beautiful things that God could experience on the physical level, because God's spiritual, and we were supposed to be the ones that go out, do all these wonderful things, and show God how magnificent we could be, acting as a part of it. And we
Yeah,
all know that we're part of God. But we got out here and got so enamored of our power that you kind of say we got drunk on it, and then we started doing really horrible things. And it's not just humanity, it's other worlds and other planets did the same thing. But we
yeah,
created this third dimensional expression, this place of being to where anything goes. And because we were so out of control, we disconnected. We forgot who we were, and we
yeah,
disconnected from spirit, and we started thinking that we were the best thing since sliced bread, and we could do whatever the hell we wanted, and there was no punishment. There
correct.
is no punishment, but there is an accountability. And
That's
so
just
now we're at this place of
perspective.
accountability.
Yeah. Now, over the years, I mean, not over the years, throughout history, we've seen
Hmm.
empires, revolutions, civil rights,
And remember,
movements,
you're saying his story too.
right? History. But what also has taken place out of all those things, right, was tension, violence, a whole,
Hmm.
yeah. Like, is this justice or is this backlash? And do you think that there's going to be a uptick in violence because of the shift, the power shift that's going on?
Well, you're already seeing the uptick in violence, and that's part of those who still want to stay in power and who want to continue things the way they are. They're fighting to their last breath to keep control, and they're doing what they've always done: search and destroy and kill those who won't let us stay in control and keep our power. But because of the planetary evolution that's taking place, and we all know that the planet is changing. No ifs, ands, or
It really
doubts about it.
is.
It's changing. Its energy, Mother Earth's energy, no longer supports this dominant, dark, abusive conscious level of consciousness. And
Right.
that's really a lot of what's going on. Excuse me. We're thinking, we talk about Armageddon, and the Bible stories tell us that it's a time of great tribulation and violence and horrible endings and all kinds of things that are going to consume humanity. And in some ways, that's happening. We've seen, we had the COVID epidemic, and we've had collapses of countries and systems, and the planet is acting up. I mean, she's doing some incredible things, that not just some of the weather control mechanisms that are out there, but actual changes in the planet. I mean, we're not setting off volcanoes, and we're not setting off tidal waves and stuff, but she is. And part of what's happening with those events is that she's trying to shake off all of this negative energy that we humans are creating. If
Yeah.
we were to settle down and be more in alignment with love and compassion and patience and all the things, all the godlike qualities that we claim we want to be, a lot of this negative energy would disperse and the planet would settle down. But she's moving back into the level of consciousness, which is where she's from. Mother Earth is what we call a Christed planet. It's one of only 12 in the entire universe that was specially created to be a heaven, like a Garden of Eden. It was supposed to be that Garden of Eden place where humanity could play and grow and be what the Creator intended. Little God beings were examples of it. So it could experience what it would be like to work all these wonderful things on a physical level. But when we got lost and we had this fall of consciousness and we got lost in all of this ego-based stuff, um, our negativity pulled Mother Earth down out of her Christed state into this darkness and into this place of negativity. And because we are part of the earth, I mean, we tend to think, oh, it's just a dead rock and we can do whatever we want. Are you kidding me? Without this planet, human beings, at least in the form that we are in, are history.
Yeah,
We cannot,
we would fail to
we can't
exist.
live without her. We
Yeah.
eat her body, we drink her food or her water, and we breathe her air. All of this is
Yeah.
made by Mother Earth. The plants, the animals, all of this, we're all made of the same stuff, Mother Earth. And so when we think about what she's doing, and she is a life form unlike we can conceive, she has her own consciousness, her own intelligence, and so does the sun. They're not just stuff, some stuff that's out there doing nothing. It's life. It's on a
It's
level that
not
we really
insignificant because Bill
we
Gates
can't
and
even
all of them make
conceive.
us feel like it's an insignificant thing. That's why they're trying to block out the sun and things like. And I'm like, what the hell are they trying to do? This
We end up destroying ourselves. But we're at this point in time where Mother Earth, there was something back in the late 80s, I think it was 1987, called the harmonic convergence. And if you don't know what it is, look it up, Google it. It's on Google. But the harmonic convergence.
the
What
harmonic
happened on the
stuff,
spiritual level?
girl. I said, girl, you be coming up with some stuff. I be like,
Well,
what?
no, I didn't come up with this stuff.
Oh,
I
you
was
wrote it
around
down.
when it happened, but I didn't
Huh?
understand quite what it meant when it happened
Right.
until I know now. But
Yeah.
that's why I said Google it. I'm not going to take the time to try to explain it, but just Google it. But
Oh, that
it
is
was an
so
event that
dope.
happened on a special, huh?
That is dope. Yo,
Well, let me tell you what it started. And see, I've been hearing about all of this stuff for decades, but I didn't have the pieces to put together until recently when things started happening, and it's like, holy shit, where they? Oh, they were right. That's what this means. But anyway, the first time I had ever heard of anything about this new time of reckoning for humanity or whatever was when I was going to the Church of Religious Science,
Mhm.
and it was this 1987, I think it was, and I remember the minister talking about this event that was happening on the spiritual level. Now, this is all on the spiritual level, not in the physical that
Right.
most people saw, but it was called the harmonic convergence. And what this was the a time when heaven and beings, ascended beings, masters, angel beings, the guardians of the planet, all came together to discuss where we were because we were coming along. And there's the Earth and our galaxy spins, and Earth is in the galaxy, the arms of the galaxy. But every 25,000, 26,000 years, we go around the galaxy and we come back to a point where, like, this is where we started, or this is where the gate is.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have done this particular revolution of coming around to this gate where humanity could evolve spiritually and get out of this third dimensional bullshit. We were coming around for the third time.
Mhm.
And we had failed the test twice before. The first 25,000 years we came around, nobody was ready. We were all barbaric and crazy. Came around another 25,000 years, and only a handful of souls had evolved enough to be ready. They turned out to be the souls that have come back to the planet, who stayed with the planet to try to help enough of us get our act together so we could evolve and get a critical mass to where we could make it through.
Mhm.
So those are the ascended masters we talk about. Jesus was one of them, Mother Mary, Moses, all of those, Metatron, Saint Germain, all of those people were the souls that went around, stayed with the planet, decided to stay here and try to teach us and educate us to the point where when it went back around this third time, we'd be ready because supposedly Spirit said, y'all get your act together. You got one more shot at this. Otherwise, I'm going to clean the planet and start over. So we've come in 1987. And they knew that this period of transition normally would take about 300 years. 1987 rolls around, and there was kind of what you want to call a meeting of the minds, or the meeting of the spirits, the light. And there was a meeting of sorts, and they said, okay, we're coming up on this event. And normally it takes about 300 years, but you can make the decision to go for it. You got enough people that are aware, that are waking up, that are embracing the light and love and what have you. And remember, when the hippies and all the time of love and the revolution started back in the 60s when I was a kid,
Mhm.
where there was a generation, my generation being born, and my sister's generation, I'll say, being born, where we were starting to see the light and not follow the corporate madness and the greed and the violence. Everybody was talking about love your brother. We were getting
Yeah.
loaded off marijuana too, but there was a lot of talk about converting to a place of compassion, and there was all this stuff happening that was helping us learn to be different. So that went on for about 20 some odd years. So come 1987, and the spiritual leaders, spiritual realm, the light worker, the light beings, I'll say, got together with spirit, with the planet on a excuse me, on a spiritual level, and had this meeting. Do you want to go for it? There's enough people, enough beings on planet Earth, souls who are wanting to answer the prayers of humanity to liberate us from the darkness and all the suffering. Do you want to go for it, or do you want to go back around, in which case we'll clear the planet and start over again?
Right.
Mother Earth, who had enough, said her contribution, because remember, she's an intelligent living being, otherwise she couldn't support an environment like what we live in. She said, I love my creations, I love my life forms. I will give them the option of going with me if they can achieve a certain level of evolution and beingness to where they can withstand the transition.
Correct.
So along with her and the other beings, the angels, the ascended masters, all these beings that said, we think we can do it, the answer came back, we're going to go for it. In other words, instead of God wiping the planet clean, because usually when planets are formed or something happens, the planet wants to evolve, life on the planet is removed, which means that
Right.
all the
Exactly.
spiritual life is removed and the planet starts over, kind of like over again, without life form. Well, this time they decided to do something that had never been done before, and that was to give life on Earth, human life especially, intelligent life, a shot at going through this portal of making this transition, because they thought we could do it.
So what they essentially is trying to do is allowing us to make it right.
Well, not to make it right, but be a part of the solution.
So this is done but through consciousness, basically.
It's done through consciousness, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. We think this physicality is what we really are, and we're not. We're
Oh, we're not.
spiritual beings. We're
Right.
consciousness. It's what we think and feel, and the things that we are. But anyway, so they did this. They made this decision, and what they said was, Mother Earth said, "But I can't do this for 300 more years. I'm going to start my ascension now. Get them ready. Tell them what they need to know so they can get ready. Everybody who's going to be ready before this end of the cycle can go with me. Everybody else that's not ready is going to stay in a state of confusion, chaos, and have this experience of third dimension for a while yet." Now, when you talk about the biblical explanation of it, that's what we're talking about with Armageddon, the 7 years or so many years of tribulation, where there's the rapture, some people seemingly disappear,
Mm-hmm.
and those are left, others are left behind, and they are there's this period where they get x number of years to get it right and make this consciousness evolution in order to join this new earth, this new consciousness of humanity that is happening now. So when you look at Armageddon, when we first started this, there was this vision, and the stories in the Bible were so horrible. We're going to go into this time of the earth being destroyed, and
Everybody.
all this. Anyway, that was the scenario until we started to do the spiritual work, and the teachers started working with us, and the light beings and the angels and all the spirituality started to awaken in us. That gave us, because we are the co-creators as conscious beings, we are able to create and be the people that we want. We kind of got a break. We were given an opportunity of time to pull it together and not have the Armageddon event if we could change our consciousness to the place of love, compassion, light, community. That's a big part of this, is coming together and supporting each other instead of hating and being angry. So we came together, and we're finally able to get to a point where it, because even 5, 6 years ago, the story I was hearing was still it was going to be pretty rough.
Mhm.
But now the spirit and the teachers are saying, you guys have made so much progress. A lot of this horrible stuff is going to be minimized. Some will experience it full blown Armageddon, and others will kind of like we're watching it on TV,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know. And so we get to know about it, we get to see it, but many of us who are of a different level of love and compassion in that higher consciousness won't have to go through the worst of it. Now, so when you talk about an Armageddon event, there are those who are living that Armageddon event right now. The countries that are being, areas that are being bombed and horrible death
Yeah,
and destruction
that to
and
me is
hunger.
Armageddon right there. That
Yeah.
is
So
Armageddon. And
but
then
it's got to be, you've got to get your heart in the right place, and you've got to believe and be willing to trust and let go of the anger, the jealousy, the resentment, the greed, the violence, the chaos, the trauma, all that stuff that we make choices to do. Each person is here to save themselves. You cannot save anybody else. But just imagine if everybody on the planet decided, you know what, I'm not going to fight, I'm not going to kill, I'm not going to maim, I'm not going to steal, I'm not going to rape, I'm not going to be jealous, I'm not going to be angry, I'm not going to be depressed, I'm not going to do violence. If everybody made that decision tonight, we'd wake up on a heaven on earth tomorrow,
it's true.
because the
If we make
world would
love,
change overnight, because each person has to make that choice. We cannot save anybody else. We can only save ourselves. And you
exactly.
have to make the choice to be in a spiritual, godlike, heaven-like mindset, consciousness, if that's what you want to experience, because the way you think is what's going to be your experience. So when the
Archie, I
question is
like.
asked
Mhm.
about, are white people the ones that are in
Yeah,
Armageddon are going to
that.
experience it?
Mhm.
Probably so, because it's, first of all, it's their story. Remember, they wrote the Bible.
Right.
We didn't. It's their
Right.
story. So if you
So
and the truth is, it is done unto you as you believe. If you believe in all that shit and you are supporting that with your actions and thoughts, yeah, you're gonna have some Armageddon experience too, until you change your mind and change your way. But if you are not of that mindset, your experience of it will be a lot easier. In fact, you might get to watch it all on TV, like a newscast, like a movie, and not have to be part of the drama at all. It's not to say that you won't know about it or that you won't know of people who are having it. But if it doesn't resonate with your body, with your energy and your mindset, it'll be something you know about but don't have to go through. But each person has to make that decision for themselves, and some people still don't believe it. So if you don't believe it, you can't have what you don't believe in. And those people may have to go into some of the Armageddon experiences before they say, "Oh hell, this is what she was talking about," or which is what the other people are talking about. I got to get my act together so I can shift my energy and have a better experience of this transition. Because Mother Earth is going. She's
yeah.
already decided. I had enough of you crazy people. And if you want to go with me and be in my new earth, my Eden on earth, whatever you want to call it, get your act together and do the right thing. And we can, I'm taking you with me. But you can't go mess up my new house with your bullshit.
Right. Yeah, they on your white couch with their shoes on.
Excuse me. She said, you ain't coming in here with that shit. Take your shoes off at the door and act like you got some sense.
I guess you have some sense. Exactly. I really do feel like mankind, humankind, abused Mother Earth, and it's just so
Oh,
sad.
look at what we've done to
So
her. Have you seen some of the crappy places? I mean, we got countries where we think about steamships and ocean liners when they go out of service, and we don't even think about what happens. They go to some of these third world countries, they got whole beaches and areas where they got these old rotten ships sitting in the harbor, rusting in the ocean, dumping oil and gasoline into the ocean while they're what do you call it? When you go in like to a junkyard, where they're taking off the working parts and selling them and doing all these things. But in the meanwhile, all of this pollution is going into the ocean in these areas, killing the fish, and it's just the plant's big enough, she's absorbing a lot of it, and those of us in other countries, more developed countries, don't see that. But we've got countries like China that are going over to certain countries, vacuuming up their beach sand, taking it back to China and building these concrete monstrosity communities that they poured so much concrete in China. They talk about the fact that that country will probably be the only one left if life does come to an end, because concrete, which is made out of rock, it's going to last forever. We know stone and rock will last forever. But they've been building these communities and they don't even have people living there. They thought they would, but people didn't want to live in those concrete monstrosities. And so they've got huge areas where they've been taking sand and making concrete and just building like crazy. And people aren't using it because that's not what they want.
Right.
And
Now,
then we're still doing drilling and still punching holes in the planet. So we haven't learned our lesson yet. But then the corporations are the ones that are really doing all of this damage.
it's just like almost as if we're living in white men's reality. That's what it feels.
Well, we still are, because we haven't evolved enough.
Right. Our realities are all collective, right? Which makes
we are all connected. We are still all
right.
We look like separate people and we think we're all separate. That's the delusion that we live under. That's the reason why we can do things.
One existence, one collective reality. We all are experiencing
God is the one entity, energy, life force that we all are. But we were given exclusive control over our part of the God brain. We're like a cell in the brain of God. You're a cell, I'm a cell. We're all in the brain of God, but one cell might be doing one thing and the other cell is over here doing something else.
They're barbaric.
They are. But that's
a little bit barbaric for my taste, sis.
But we were given one thing that a lot of other creation was not given, and that is that free will choice. We got to choose. When God said, "Okay, you're going to go down to this, become a human or a human on this planet, and you get all this power. You got all my power, all my ideas, all my abilities. I give them to you. You get to use and decide how to use it, and I'll just watch and enjoy what we do together." Because who do you think is watching through your eyes when what you see? What do you think that intelligence is that's observing what you're doing and giving you the ideas and the thoughts? It's the God part. It's the God part of you. It's creating an opportunity, but you get free will choice. It's like, I don't know when you learned how you learned to drive, but remember when you first got the keys to the car, there was somebody sitting next to you showing you how to drive the car, but they weren't driving the car. You got the keys, you got to start it up, you got to put your foot on the gas and on the pedal, and they were there trying to teach you how to ride the car. Well, consider yourself, you're driving the car, except that the driver, the person that's teaching you to drive the car, is God presence, but instead of sitting next to you, it's sitting inside of you. And when God sees you doing something wonderful, don't you feel good? And it's like, ooh, everything's so wonderful. Spirit celebrating with you doing this magnificent thing. When you make a choice to do something horrible or angry or jealous or vindictive or whatever it is you do that harms someone else, some people might look like they're enjoying it or that this is what they really want to do on the outside, but inside there's part of them that they're killing because they're knowing in their heart, I shouldn't do this, but I want this, but I want her, or I want him, or I'm making this money and I'm going to kill this person. Whatever you do, you got this part of you that's like crying and saying, no, no, no. Yet you got that free will choice. You can go ahead and do that. It doesn't mean that you won't pay a price for it within, because you know what you did.
Correct. Right.
You will always know what you did. If you never tell anybody, you think you got away with it? No, you got to live with that. Well, who do you think is sitting in there being part of that experience with you? Maybe disappointed in you.
Right. Exactly.
But still,
they always say the Bible, you separate the weeds from the wheat and all this other good stuff. Do you think that is currently happening right now? And I do, because I do see
Yes, I do, but not on the level that the Bible describes it. because again, our free will choice has given us the right to choose whether we want to be wheat or chaff. Now, also remember that not all cultures believe in the Bible or the religions that
Correct.
most of us in America do. And there are many cultures around the world who have nothing to do, don't even know about that there is a Bible. They
Right.
follow a more pure experience of spirituality with the divine. And it's just that because we live in a country that has strong religious beliefs and strong connections to the Bible, we follow it and think that it's absolute. It is not. And remember, Bible is only 2,000 years old.
Mhm.
And sometimes people forget it was written by white people 2,000 years ago, 50 years after Jesus left the planet. So there's and it's been modified and amended and changed. I mean, there's hundreds of versions of the Bible around the world, and some of them have some stories, and some of them don't. Some of them say this, and some say that. And then we
Right.
had King James, who decided he wanted to divorce his wife because he didn't want to be married anymore. He rewrote the Bible again, and that's fairly recent history. So, when you think, and believe me, I'm not putting the Bible down. Those guys who are religious and very devoted, I'm not putting it down. But what I'm saying is,
We're
think about it.
yeah.
Timeline wise, think about it. You're talking 2,000 years of a belief system and a doctrine and a religion that was born out of violence and war and killing people. And we take those stories, and we have learned to live by it. Now I'll take it one step further, and this is probably where I'm gonna piss a lot of people off. White people wrote the Bible and created religion and came in and killed millions of indigenous people, the Native Americans, and took over their land and called it eminent domain and started building this country, which was built on war. And I mean, they were fighting the British when they came over here, and then they came over and killed a bunch of people and then built this country. They went and kidnapped a bunch of Black people from Africa, brought them over here, made them slaves, and worked and created and took them away from everything they knew and created a whole new world for them to live in and taught them religion. Now, we often say, why is it that white Christians and white people seem to have a different version of religion, and they can do things and be certain ways, and Black people are not? We're different. Our religious beliefs are different, and we hold on to a lot of that doctrine more intensely. Who taught us that religion? Our slave masters. So, what do you think they would do when they could take a people away from home and everything and everyone they knew, bring them to a new country that even everything was different, and then teach them to be obedient to God, represented by white people? All I'm saying is, while you hold on to everything that you quote unquote believe in, I know you've been taught to don't question. And see, I'm one of those kids. I grew up in
I
Sunday school.
always question. I always
I got put out of Sunday school so many times I can't tell you, because I would always, my teacher would start saying something in Sunday school, and I'd use my favorite word. But why?
why.
Well, who was this? Well, what did they do? Well, why would they do that? And
Yeah,
so my mother was always mad at me because you caused too much trouble in Sunday school. Well, see, I was one of those inquisitive minds
same here.
that I always wanted to know things. When I get toys when I was a kid, I tear them apart. She'd think I was breaking them. No, I wanted to take them apart and put them
What's
back together. I wanted
inside?
to see how it
Yeah.
worked. I was a programmer back in the early days of computers because I could figure stuff out, and my mind was that way. I belong to American Mensa. I'm a high IQ person.
Yeah. Oh, that's what's
Drives
up.
a lot of people crazy. I think it's part of my problem because it still makes me question things, and now I'm kind of old, don't want to be bothered with figuring it out, but I do question things. But
Yeah.
I was, when I grew up, and I grew up in the Baptist church, and as I was growing up and starting and became an adult in the church, and some of the behaviors, they would, I remember being in church on Sunday, and everybody's, preacher's giving this great sermon, and everybody's happy, and all this stuff is going on. and then we leave church on Sunday afternoon, and by Monday they're sleeping with each other's husbands and wives. They're doing their dirt, and they're,
Yeah.
doing everything, beating each other, and all this stuff is going on from Monday to Saturday night. And then everybody on Saturday goes to get their hair done and get new clothes and all this stuff so that they can be spiffed up and ready on Sunday morning to go hear the Lord's word.
Wash it all
And
away.
the word the word didn't last 24 hours. And I used to always go, but why? Why are you guys doing this? There was a situation that happened at our church one time. Well, first of all, never mind that I knew the minister was sleeping with these other women, not his wife. But this young man, we were all in our 20s and we were, had kids. We were young married couples and stuff. There was this one woman who sang in the choir, beautiful, beautiful voice. I mean, she'd make you cry. She had such a beautiful voice. And she was married and had a couple of kids. And there was this other man who was married to this other woman, and they were a young family, recently married, and she was pregnant. Anyway, during the Easter Sunday program, I think it was it was one of the programs where the kids come in and say their little speeches on stage, and it was for the kids. Anyway, they're doing this program, and the kids are all there in the church, and everybody, they're playing music, and everybody's having a good time. And in walks this guy, the husband of the woman who was pregnant, with a shotgun. He walks up to the front, to the pulpit, to the area where this woman with the beautiful voice was singing. He walks up, and everybody, of course, when he walks in with this gun, everybody, stopped, the music stopped, and he's drunk, and he walks up to her and pulls the gun and on her and said, "If I can't have you, nobody can have you," and pulled the trigger, but the gun misfired. And by the time that happened, some of the deacons and other men there grabbed him and tackled him to pull the gun out of his hand. Had God not blocked that gun and made it misfire, he would have murdered her right there in front of all the people in the church, because he was having an affair with her. He's in love with her, and he wanted her, and she said no, because she was married, and but they had been having an affair, and she broken up with him. His wife, who was like 8 months pregnant, is sitting 10 feet away with all this going on. And I'm like, so when I wasn't there because my kids weren't my kids were older, and we weren't there at that particular time. But my mother told me about it, and of course, all the members of the church and everything was talking about when he tried to murder Edna, and everybody in the church was watching. I'm like, you know what? I've had enough of you people. That was right around the time when I pulled back and said, if this is what your Christianity and Christian behavior says it's okay, and you're going to say, I'm sorry, and Lord, forgive me, you just don't, it's like, I can't see where you can even conceive of doing that when you're supposed to be a spiritual person anyway. How
Right,
can you do
exactly.
that? And so, those were, and there were other things that happened, but that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back for me, and believing and subscribing to this, what I call a fake behavior. Now, I know all the people in the church weren't like that, and they were doing their best to be who they were, who they wanted to be, but I couldn't handle it. It just broke my heart to think that people could do this and then show up on Sunday quoting from the Bible and talking about their man or woman of God. It's like, now, I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that by any means, but it drove me away from traditional religion because I could not stand and deal with the hypocrisy. I thought I can see the humanity, and I can see and understand you having problems and doing things that you regret and that are, that are horrible and what have you. But don't tell me that you are a, God fearing, which I don't think God wants us to
Yeah.
fear. I don't think God wants us to fear it either. But I just couldn't deal with the hypocrisy, and I learned to not trust people because they were not. I thought, you know better. You know better. How could you do this? And you use your religion as an excuse to get away with murder, if you will.
That's why it
It just
bothers
drove
me
me away.
here, like reverends, preachers, ministers right now who do bad thing and like bad things in the church. That bothers me because I'm like, they are
Yes.
conscious. They know they're not supposed to be
And
molesting.
they're the leaders. They're the
They know
ones
they're
that are
not
supposed to
supposed to
be
be
setting the example. But,
right.
even right now, I mean,
Example, though. They never
Even
set the example. And then on top of that, Sister Sophia, they get a pass. They get a pass for being in what they figure is a higher up position.
to
You know,
be, yeah, superior, to be, yeah,
God,
whatever they want to call it.
yeah, that they get a pass and everybody's pass. Oh, that's Reverend. So, you know, we all fall down, but we get up. You
I
know
know.
what?
Well, the very thing that's happening right now with Deepak Chopra, and he's not in organized religion.
Oh my
He's
goodness.
part of the spiritual movement, but he's using his spirituality and his knowledge and his beautiful words to try to get a pass for all the crazy crap he was doing with Epstein
Yeah,
and all those young girls.
right
You
there is
know,
just
so
when the dark has come to light.
well, you know, and that's what we're experiencing when we talk about the Armageddon event and how, you know, we're going to experience the negativity and things. You know, the darkness is going to be
Yeah,
rolled back and the light will shine in. And you know what happens when you pull back floorboards and shine light under there, as all the roaches and rats and things start
oh,
scattering. And that's kind of what we're seeing now. The light is coming in from heaven, from the sun, because the sun is that's part of it, shining all this beautiful, loving, purifying light on the planet. Mother Earth is responding to it by allowing the sun to shine and to come in. She's absorbing it and she's doing the best she can to
yeah,
hold things together, to give us a chance to choose the light, to choose love, to choose compassion, and to choose to be what we were created to be. That's what we're going through now. This period of time where she's saying, I'm revving up and moving into the higher consciousness levels, and I'm giving you guys time to get your act together so we can go together. I want to take as many of my children with me as I can. You see the animals and plants, all of they're changing. The animals are doing better at this consciousness situation than we are. You
they
know,
are.
you see animals starting to be together in ways that they never were before. You see
Yeah.
animals. I was watching a video of a in Africa. There were some hyenas that were trying to kill this baby. You know those animals. I forgot what you call them,
Hmm.
but they're the ones that we always see
The
running in there.
antelopes.
Huh?
The antelopes.
No, what do they call
They're
them?
just like deers, but they're not. They're called antelopes.
Antelope. Well, they're like antelope. I forgot what they call them. Can't think of it right now. But anyway, but they travel in herds and the predators prey on them, especially on the old and the weak. But anyway, there was this little baby, a young one, not a baby, but a young one. And these hyenas, a group of hyenas were trying to kill it. And they were trying to attack it. This female lion stood up, ran over to where the baby was. I'm thinking, oh my God, he went out of, fire, the frying pan into the fire. She ran the hyenas off and then turned around and walked back over to where she was lying with the rest of the pride, laid down. The little baby uh, antelope came over and laid in the shade with them, and they did not kill it. And it was like, holy shit. There's all kinds of stories that say there will be a time when the lamb will lie down with the lion like it used to. But this mother lion, the female lion, saved this baby from being killed and eaten by the hyenas.
That's
I've
making
seen
me cry for some reason.
we see animals of different species becoming friends. They're hanging out together and doing things. And we still have the crazies. And of course, not everything has changed yet. But my point is, we live in a time where every being of intelligence can make a choice.
Exactly. And another thing, we're like the higher, we have a higher intelligence than animals.
Supposedly.
Sometimes I don't think so. I really think
That's
that
why I said supposedly.
I really think animals have a higher intelligence than us.
They
Because that,
do, but it's different. It's a different kind of intelligence. And, we
yeah,
think we're the best thing since sliced bread on the planet. But the truth is, from what I understand or what science is saying, the dolphins and the whales actually have a higher level of intelligence than we do.
I believe
Now,
that.
I kind of, yeah, when you look at their behavior and the things that they do, you can kind of see where that's true. Um, so from our perspective as a human trying to figure out how to pay my bills or which way is up or what I'm going to have for dinner tonight, I think that some of the other species out there who don't have those issues or who are doing things that show they've moved past all of that,
Mm-hmm.
that they may be more superior than we think, or at
Right.
least equal to who we are. It's just they're different. They're a different life form. They live in a different world, a world we couldn't survive in for more than a few minutes. I mean, the whales and the dolphins, and there's always stories about dolphins saving humans that are,
Mm-hmm. Oh
shipwrecked.
yeah, yeah. All
So,
right, y'all. We're about to wrap it up because your sister got to go eat something. She didn't eat
yeah,
all
before she
day.
passes out, she hasn't eaten today. She's been neglecting herself. But
Woo,
just,
Lord,
when we talk about the Armageddon event, just
yeah, I was going to
remember
ask you to
everything is
close out.
consciousness.
Yes.
It's all consciousness. So, as we move forward, and this year is supposed to be a pretty difficult year as far as us going through this transition. This is supposed to be the time when a lot of these events start coming to head. And I think that they
Oh,
are, because we've got this conflict going on in the Gulf of the Mediterranean area, and this time Iran is not backing down. They're fighting and attacking all kinds of countries, bringing everybody into this. So
yeah.
it's looking kind of difficult as far as getting out of this. But we must, instead of being afraid or angry or just totally going into that negative space and those negative emotions, when we hear about things or see things, this is the time to be prayerful, to send love and light to the people in that situation, to the event itself, to the area, to do, and finally say, do what Jesus would do. You know,
Exactly.
bring love and peace and compassion and tolerance and patience into the area, because you will influence them from all the way around the world. We are one being, and that's a being of spirit. And if you understand and really understand what that means, you'll realize that when you send anger and negativity and drama and hatred, you're playing the dark game, because
Yeah.
you're sending it through your energy system, your soul. We are all one soul in spirit's body, in the mind of God. So be mindful of who you really are and not who you think you are. You are not an individual, and that's them, and this is us. It's only us. It's an
Exactly.
illusion that we're separate. So try being patient, loving, compassionate, show unconditional love, tolerance, joy. I know sometimes it's like, well, how can you feel those things, and the things are so horrible? Try feeling those things and see how less horrible things become. I was where you guys have been and are in many cases. I've been there, but I realized that moving into the higher level of consciousness, and I'm not being Mickey Mouse or any of that woo-woo stuff. This is not woo, this is real life. You
Oh,
see the world is changing. You know the planet is changing. If nothing else, something weird is happening. So
right.
instead of pretending that no, nothing's happening, life is going to go on the way it always has been. No, it's not. It's already not the way it has been. The pandemic was a reset. It's the first time in human history that we know of that they shut the whole world down for days, weeks, and things didn't happen the way it always has. And then they started it up again, and it didn't go back to the way it was.
Correct.
And we're nowhere near going back to the way it was. It's never Things are never going to go back to the way they were. They made that decision in 1987. We were going for it. So you can believe it or not. That's okay with me. It's happening. And the more evidence that you see showing up with way things are going, and you don't understand, well, why is this happening? Or God, things are getting so bad. Things are getting good. Some people are having it really good because they realize what's going on. Now, I will tell you this. It's not showing up the way all of us expected it. Those of us who kind of know what's going on, it's different. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't see this coming. Because to experience a transition on level of consciousness as opposed to physical, no one had ever done this before. So we're all making this up as we go, but we do know something is happening. We do know that this is a consciousness experience. Planet is evolving. She's going to a better place and time. We get a chance to go with her, but you got to make a choice.
I love that. Thank you for joining us tonight. And what I wanted to say with my closing is that some people are going to call what's about to happen, they're going to call it chaos. Some people are going to call it divine balance. But no matter what it is, history is shifting right before our eyes, and we're
Yes.
not able to control it. So whether we call it karma, accountability, awakening, Armageddon, whatever you want to call it, okay? One question remains for us all. What role will we play in the world that comes next?
Yes, and get out of the river of denial because you will drown.
You won't
You know,
drown.
you will drown if you keep denying that this change is happening. This is what we prayed for. I'm gonna remind you guys, we asked for this. Very often you ask for something, but you don't know how it's gonna show up. Well, this is how it's showing up. So you asked for a world of peace and love and plenty where everybody could be comfortable and safe. Well,
This
this is
is
the way it's
it.
unfolding.
This is it.
This is it. Oh shit, I didn't realize it was gonna come with all these nails and thorns. And well, roses have thorns, so we
This
love
is
them,
it.
but you gotta be careful where you put your fingers.
Remember, there are a lot of thorns and roses. So, anywho,
And I
well,
love
see
roses.
y'all next
You
week,
watch,
y'all.
be careful where you put your fingers, and you'll be fine.
Exactly. But smell the roses.
Smell
Thank
them
you guys
and
for
roll
tuning
roses. Do you know rose is the
in.
most powerful flower on the planet? It carries a spiritual
Oh,
nature.
what?
That's one of the reasons why Mother Mary is often referred to as the rose. When we think about roses, they're always a symbol of love and something special. And it's because roses can be used as a protective tool, to break up negative energy, to show love. All kinds of things are come out of the power of the rose. So don't just think don't throw your roses away without considering how special they are. They represent love in its purest and most powerful form.
Thank you for that. That was
All
beautiful.
right, you guys. All right, I know it was a crazy show, and I know probably some of you guys on this woman's
It
show don't
wasn't
know what
crazy,
she's
Sister
talking about,
Sophia. It
but I'm
wasn't
telling
crazy. It
you,
was needed.
see, I don't have to worry about you guys sounding crazy or thinking I don't know what I'm talking about because I see enough of the evidence of what has already happened and what is happening now to know, oh shit, this is real. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's real. It's real. I'm telling you guys. We'll
Yeah.
talk about some more next time.
Next time, we see you next week, y'all.
All right. Love you
Peace.
all.